And where are you coming in from? Are you in Glasgow? No.
Yeah, I'm in Glasgow.
You are. Ah,
Yeah.
what time is it? What
We are at 5 past 5 in the afternoon.
Right on. So nice happy hour here for you. Yeah, so Rebecca is an early career academic currently working on their PhD on lesbian fantasy fiction at the University of Glasgow, and their research interests include gender and sexual studies, feminist studies, genre studies, and the narrative world building, which yes, please. All the things. So let me also give you some privileges so you can share your screen. Let me, sorry, take that off right quick because, zooming. And great. Now you should be able to go ahead and share your screen. And so what we're going to do this style, if this is again your first Wrestleposium, each participant will have about 15 minutes to present. Feel free to put your questions in the chat. And then once everyone's finished, we'll have a nice, about 5, 10 minutes or so to go into some Q&A. And yeah, after this, we have lunch in the next hour, so it's okay that we just went over a few minutes. We'll get it back with lunch. So with that, take it away.
Perfect. Well, hi everyone. Like we said, I'm Rebecca. Feel free to use any pronouns you like for me, whatever fits the bit. I'm super excited to be here today, but I'm here to talk to you essentially about women's hardcore wrestling, the nature of narrative catharsis, and how hardcore matches can elicit such feelings in an audience. Today I'm looking at two particular case studies. We have the blow-off death match between Alex Windsor and Charlie Morgan in the UK independent promotion Pro Wrestling Eve, and the feud-ending match from All Elite Wrestling's 2025 Revolution pay-per-view between Timeless Toni Storm and Mariah May. As a heads up, this presentation will feature a couple images of gore, nothing too heavy, and a little bit of strong language. All the best stuff from hardcore matches. But with that, I wanted to start by giving us just a little bit of grounding in what I mean by narrative catharsis. So, the concept of catharsis was first named by ancient Greeks in the works of Homer, although originally this was in reference to purification rituals. Later on, these rituals were undertaken to cleanse a type of crime referred to as blood guilt. If you shed the blood of an innocent man, you could be purified by undergoing Catharsis. This was usually a shower of pig's blood, which, They believed, though, that this would wash away the bloodstain of your crimes. Later, Plato came to use catharsis as a term for going beyond the senses and embracing the intelligible. For Neoplatonists, catharsis is about eliminating material passions in favour of virtues that would allow you to assimilate to divinity and shed mortal things. So catharsis then has always had this link to bloodshed and sin. For the purposes of our discussion today, though, I turn to the dramaturgical concept of catharsis, one that is sort of most exemplified in Aristotle's take on it in Poetics. To Aristotle, catharsis is achieved when dramatic art of some kind brings out or expunges a certain emotion in the audience. According to some translations, this is specifically a feature of tragedy, where it's a mimesis of a serious action, which brings about a catharsis of pity and fear. Contemporary dramaturgical theorists hold the opinion that any emotion can form the base of a cathartic response. And Barthes, in his essay on wrestling, makes the comment that wrestling itself is theatre. Of course it is, it's performance art. It's designed to imitate the spectacle of Greek drama and to generate emotion without reserve. If the medium of wrestling is theatre, then the theatrical theory of catharsis has a basis to apply. To achieve this, though, we have to create a spectacle that generates a visceral emotion in the audience. To me, no subgenre of wrestling does this better than the death match. As a very brief primer on hardcore and deathmatch wrestling, in case anyone isn't familiar, this is a form of wrestling where disqualification, countouts, and all your standard rules tend not to apply. Usage of weapons is encouraged, and it's not uncommon to see the performers involved bleeding in some way. This can be via blading, when a wrestler creates a small cut in their hairline with a concealed razor in order to get colour, or hard way bleeding, where the wrestler is actually busted open by a certain move or strike. Now, the first place to promote hardcore wrestling as a distinct style was frontier martial arts wrestling in Japan in 1989. But despite this, blood and weapon usage has been a feature of wrestling for a really long time. Bloody brawling was the reason wrestling was banned in the UK until 1947. There's a really long history of American brawling in the 1950s onwards, with the advent of the steel cage match, Texas death matches, unsanctioned lights out matches, you name it, they did it. But the popularity of Frontier allowed for similar promotions to crop up in the US, forming a basis for what would become Extreme Championship Wrestling, which is synonymous with deathmatch wrestling for so many people nowadays. Despite its popularity though, deathmatch wrestling, much like the rest of the sport, was traditionally seen as a male-dominated style. As women have fought to carve out a space in the world of pro wrestling at large, deathmatch wrestling still remains a complicated subject. Many fans have really strong feelings about women working in hardcore styles, even though we have so many prolific women within the scene. As an example, I have a tweet here that I've pulled from a fan in response to Ruby Soho having a street fight on AEW television, where she bladed and bled for it. The fan here claims, "I love hardcore wrestling, but the problem I had with it is that these are women. They are at a very real threat of death when they do this. And watching women doing stuff like what they did made me just uncomfortable and was hard to watch." To this fan, the very fact of the performer being women makes the violence unpalatable and brings real-life safety concerns that don't seem to be present in matches between men, reinforcing this idea that the women are inherently more delicate. This is obviously not the case. The women who perform these styles are just as informed as the men of the risks and often just as skilled. What it does mean, however, is that women bleeding can elicit a stronger emotional response from an audience. Which brings us to our first case study. Meet iron-willed Alex Windsor and fearless Charlie Morgan. At the time of their feud, both of them were working the UK independent scene, specifically in Pro Wrestling Eve, an all-women's promotion based in London. This was the feud that killed the friendship. Okay, maybe that's a little dramatic, but sue me, it's professional wrestling. I'm allowed. What is true, though, is that Charlie and Alex are best friends in real life, having first met during training as teenagers. This friendship is used as a basis for their feud in order to provide an emotional core. In their final match together, Charlie wears a shirt from one of the vacations they took together, an act designed to remind the watching audience that this dynamic exists far beyond the reaches of the ring. As a little bit of background to how we got here, Alex won the 2022 She Won. This is a tournament in Eve to crown the Ace of Eve. This person then gets to go on and challenge for any title in the company. Charlie, as her tag partner at the time, assumed that she and Alex would challenge for the tag titles. Alex challenges Jetta, Charlie's real-life fiancée, for the championship instead. Naturally, Charlie's loyalties were split between her best friend and her fiancé. When Alex beat Jetta for the title and then lost it within the same 24 hours, Charlie made her choice. Alex was ostracised, branded a glory chaser, and Charlie attacks her. And then attacks her. And then attacks her. The feud lasts for almost 18 months until, frankly, the shows can't go on with the two of them at each other's throats. The only recourse is for one of them to leave. In April 2024, they faced each other in a loser leaves Eve match. It's the second time they ever face off in their careers, and it's the last. Match runs for over 35 minutes and it leaves both of them bloody. Alex in particular sports a crimson mask you might have seen in ECW, complete with her own Mick Foley tribute. In keeping with the kayfabe blurring nature of their feud, Jetta involves herself in the match to help her wife, and Alex's fiancé is on commentary, both to sell the history between them and to give a human dimension to the violence we witness. When Alex bleeds and we hear real concern in his voice, there's a visceral thought that the danger in the ring might just be real after all. And every spot is more vicious than the last. They come at each other with kendo sticks, duct tape, chairs, doors, tables, barbed wires, thumbtacks. If it wasn't nailed down, they were using it. And you get the sense that these two might just really hate each other in order to do this to each other. In the fiction of the feud, there is something sickening about the lengths to which they'll go. The building violence, though, is meant to unsettle. It's meant to create tension in the audience. At the climax of the match, you need catharsis. It comes when Charlie hugs Alex desperately, both of them in tears, and then she howls, "I fucking hate you." Blinded by her hatred, she loses. Alex triumphs. It's a release, and it's over. All of the violence ends, and it ends tenderly, with Alex stroking Charlie's face during the pinfall. The tender end lets them mend their friendship, and so the catharsis here comes in the form of healing. All of the violence is expunged and released through their shed blood, and the blood bond of their friendship is purified by it. Charlie announces her retirement and thus caps her career with catharsis. But not every deathmatch has tender catharsis at its end. Some of them end with tragedy instead. In All Elite Wrestling, Timeless Toni Storm and Mariah May have their final curtain call in Hollywood itself. It's one fit for a Greek tragedy. Unlike Charlie and Alex, the feud between Mariah and Toni is one constructed specifically to be a referential work of fiction. Timeless Toni Storm is a star. She is not a delusional pro wrestler spiralling in the wake of losing her title. She's a Hollywood actress, the best to ever do it, and the brightest light in the sky. Stay in school, kids. Timeless Toni Storm has no intention of moving over for you pathetic little dreamers to take her spot. Mariah May, however, is a golden-haired, pretty-faced ingenue, and she wants nothing more than to be exactly like her idol, Toni Storm. Exactly like her idol. She'll wear the same ring gear and enter to the same music and hope it's enough to get her as close as possible to the woman she's obsessed with. When Toni falls for her reflection and takes Mariah under her wing, Mariah turns on her and leaves her bloody and howling on the stage she used to own. It's Sunset Boulevard. It's all about Eve. It's designed to be cinema. The betrayal's bloody in itself with a high-heeled shoe as the weapon, and it leads to their final match, the Hollywood ending. No disqualifications, falls count anywhere. The third act arrives. After Mariah's bloody heel turn, Toni's ploy at amnesia, and building tension between them, the ending has to be violent. Unlike Charlie and Alex, who systematically take each other apart over 35 minutes, Toni and Mariah have an all-out war that barely lasts 13. Toni bleeds so much it looks like she's dying. They plunge their fists into broken glass in a Taipei deathmatch homage, and they throw each other into nearly every surface available to them. But, much like Charlie and Alex, there's a brief moment of release in the middle of the match, as Mariah confesses, screaming, that she fucking hates Toni too. Like Charlie, her hatred blinds her, and Toni picks up the win. But the real catharsis here isn't shared like it is with Charlie and Alex. Charlie and Alex return to one another and reunite despite all their bloodshed. Toni has to bask in hers alone. She learns from her mistakes and finally uses the weapon Mariah once used on her, and gets payback for that very first betrayal. The fans bay for it as she hesitates, raising that shoe above her head, but when she does finally use it, it's catharsis. She's learned from her past and she's able to move on. In the end, Toni lays over the body of her protege, her mirror, her love. She kills and exorcises the demon that was Mariah May, and she gets to continue being a star. It's a lonely catharsis, but it's a catharsis nonetheless, and one that speaks a little bit more to the morality of wrestling. A broken friendship is a realistic struggle, and you can't help but feel complexity in the catharsis. Everyone has their own take on who was right in that feud between Charlie and Alex, because by nature of them blurring the lines between reality and kayfabe, it becomes quite difficult to make it cut and dry. It's why them reuniting at the end feels right. Toni and Mariah's story, though, is a morality play. Mariah terrorises the roster as world champion, and when Toni puts her down for good, it isn't evil being defeated. And ultimately, all good wrestling should provide narrative catharsis. Each match, regardless of the build, should be a struggle on some front. That's the nature of storytelling within the ring. But when you create a storyline that earns a level of investment from the audience, the need for catharsis grows stronger. To watch women bleed and leave their hatred in the ring elicits such a cathartic feeling from an audience because, for better or for worse, extreme violence is still seen as a man's game. Expunging so much hatred through bloodshed forces an audience to also vent their own emotional attachment to the storyline. There's a reason a really good death match can leave you, the audience, wrung out, and exhausted. And honestly, there's a reason I watched both of these matches and cried. That's the beauty of Catharsis. And that's all from me today.
Awesome. Thank you. No, that that was great. I want to look up the that Charlie Morgan fight. I haven't seen that one.
It's wonderful. They have it for free on their YouTube, so it's really easy to
Yeah.
access it. And
Oh,
yeah, it's great.
oh, good. Good, good. Because yeah, I certainly want
Yeah.
to look that one up, especially what year was that? You said 24?
Yeah.
2024, that one? Okay, so just a couple of years ago. That was excellent. We've got, let's say, 5 minutes or so for Q&A, but are there any comments or questions people want to raise their little zoomy hand or just unmute yourself and ask Rebecca a question or comment?
It was great.
Thank you, David. We've got one in the chat. Catharsis could be so hard to come by when wrestlers show up the next week, regardless of what happened the week before. That's kind of true. It's like I just saw you die. Like, why are you here? And like, wear heels. But the death of Mariah May still stands as cathartic anytime I see Tony Storm. That's true. I
Right.
mean, and because
Yeah.
Tony Storm also, it's like, come on, I'm
Yeah.
sold.
And
She,
also it kind of it's the nature of both of those matches. Charlie
yeah.
retired afterwards, so the catharsis can stand
Oh,
because you
that's
aren't
true.
seeing her week to week. Mariah moved on to another promotion in a very like territory style feuds ending. So you don't see her again. So you do get the sense that, yeah, that was a death that happened. That was real.
Mm,
So it lets that catharsis stand a little longer.
hmm Because also too, what I was thinking of was like that blood purified like through blood, and I had made the comments like looking at that tweet that you'd posted that someone put in.
Yeah.
I was like, "Are you fucking serious?" Like
Yeah.
the gender dynamics, right? And like we're talking about performance art again, but
Hmm.
those cultural values imposing upon even the art itself and putting those gendered ideologies on the art itself too. But AC also asked, can you talk a little more about how these matches subvert traditional expectations of femininity, especially when it comes to, women's sports in general
Sure.
and this new emergence?
Yeah, I think it's a really complicated one, especially for Charlie and Alex specifically. What I think is a really interesting dynamic is obviously Charlie is queer and Charlie's quite butch. So
Yeah.
she immediately has a presentation that isn't naturally read as very feminine, which is very fun. And in wrestling with her, Alex mirrors that presentation.
Hmm.
When I say she has a Mick Foley tribute, it's she has the crimson mask and she does the finger guns and whatnot, but she also has the red cut off plaid, and it's a very interesting take compared to sort of more traditional feminine gear, which I really liked.
Yeah.
Um, so having that almost like queer angle to that, I think, really makes a difference in their match because it informs a lot of what underpinned most of the feud. And also, I think it's notable that because it's an all women's promotion, Charlie's wife's allowed to interfere. Alex's fiance is relegated to commentary. He has to yap, but he's not allowed to be involved in it. Which,
Uh,
great. Yeah, neither he should be.
I was
But
about to ask, like, how the commentary played into the match itself, right? Because of the relationships and that it's public knowledge, right? That they were engaged
yeah,
at the time, right? So how that played up into the story of it.
it plays in a lot, and also the way the venue is set up. Commentary is on a desk on a raised platform at the back of the venue, and at one point, Charlie throws Alex through all the chairs against the barricade that commentary is behind. So as the camera follows them, you can see,
The
yeah, and commentary standing up, looking down at her and being like, "There's nothing I can do." And it's
Yeah.
that feeling of blurring that reality and kayfabe line of there probably is part of these people who are legitimately worried for what is going on because there is risk involved in these matches, but also it sells that this is dangerous, and it
Hmm.
plays into that story. So I think it's great.
Yeah. And we have time for probably another one. Here's from Lisa. I'd be keen to ask how women's hardcore matches reveal the inherent risk in all hardcore matches And when we see women as at risk, are we actually implying that the level of risk is incredibly severe for all competitors, but by focusing on women, we release ourselves from engaging with the ethics of hardcore wrestling?
Yeah, I think to an extent. I think, yeah, all hardcore matches are risky. All of wrestling is risky, really.
Yeah.
I'm training to be a wrestler. It is risky. It hurts. You do a lot of things that your body should not do.
Yeah, this is not normal.
Yeah, it's not normal. Even something as simple as a back bump is not a natural thing that you should be doing. Um, Theoretically, hardcore wrestling is not any more risky than standard wrestling if it's done right.
Mm,
There is layers and there's ways you can mitigate those dangers. But I do think that when we focus so much on it being risky for women, it is a way to absolve our guilt. Because
mm,
you do have to, enjoying wrestling, you do have to make peace with the fact that these people are putting their bodies on the line and putting their health at risk. That's part of the sport. And they choose to do that, and most of them choose to do that with full knowledge of what that entails. Um, so, on one hand, yes, we're trying to absolve ourselves of the ethics of hardcore wrestling as a whole, but also I think it's a way to maybe subconsciously infantilize
mm.
women and imply that they don't know what they're putting at risk. They'll know as much as anyone else in the business.
That absolving ourselves of guilt. I wrote that down. Like, heck yeah. Like that's
Yeah.
that speaks a lot, right? About our
Yeah.
gender dynamics and those expectations
Hmm.
as AC says, now that's a controversial assertion, for sure. Um, and so on, what are you saying? I heartily recommend scholars look into death matches for how they develop pockets of minor mythos inherently in defiance to capitalist structure. Glorious suicide.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you comment on that?
I mean, yeah, it's true. There's something inherently unprofitable about a death match. People don't love to sponsor the idea of people hurting themselves like that. So there is a way to read that as a rebuke of capitalist culture that I think would be really interesting to dig into deeper.
AC, were you gonna jump in?
Yeah, just a thought on that. It would seem like again, it's taking an anti-capitalist idea and embodying it in a capitalist platform. Um, because for deathmatch shows like your big deathmatch tournaments or your deathmatch promotions like GCW or
Hmm.
Big Japan, they're not giving those tickets away for free.
No.
And
No.
performers certainly aren't going out there and doing that for free and withstanding that damage. So so the assertion that it's again like we talked about a little bit earlier, it's a capitalist platform for subversive ideas that has been folded back into the system, or of that. I I don't know. I just wanted to put that forward. Do you want to talk about that or expound upon it at all?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really hard to square in general. By nature of the culture we live in, everything ends up having to revert back to something capitalistic because it's how we have to operate in this world. Like that, people are putting their bodies at risk. They will do it for a payday, or you need to fund a promotion to have a safe venue or to compensate people fairly for their work. And I think there is a conversation to be had about whether or not anything can truly be anti-capitalist, or whether, like that, we are just putting anti-capitalist ideas back into the system because how else are you supposed to continue doing it otherwise? You could
Hmm.
absolutely do it in one big blaze of glory, but if you want to make this sustainable, unfortunately sometimes you have to capitulate to the system.
Hmm. And it just makes me think too, it's like, at least like with American history, it's like, oh, like public executions. It's like, hey, let's make a whole party out of it, you know what I mean? Or it's like
Yeah.
literally, it's like we're putting somebody, a criminal to death, but it's like, hey, here, let's sell some tickets. Like, everybody come, we're about to hang this dude. Like, blah, blah, blah,
Yeah.
or it's like, holy shit. So it's like, this isn't new. You know what I mean? Like, we just put
Mhm.
like, it's always been a performance. I mean, war is capital, So
Exactly.
literally, this stuff is so ingrained. That's why it's always hilarious to me when people are like, oh, like, wrestling, it has nothing to do with culture. I'm like,
Mm,
you're kind of
just a little
choosing.
bit.
Okay, head in sand. Nah. Um, this is awesome. I know we could certainly go on and on, but I want to get our next presentation up. Stick around, Rebecca, if you can, because I think we'll probably
Yeah,
have some more questions
I'll
towards the end.
yeah, I'll
Um,
pop the link to that Alex and Charlie match in the
oh
chat
yeah.
if anyone wanted to take a look at it.
Yes, please. Thank you. Thank
Okay.
you.